let's talk about Diego Lainez, Mal. Mistake for Tata Martino to leave him at home?
Yeah, this is the biggest mistake he has made in the 3.5 years that he has been the Mexican national team manager, and here is why. Because this is the biggest contradiction that we've gotten from Gerardo Martino in his tenure. Over the years, over this 3.5 years, Gerardo Martino has made it very, very clear that the player that he trusts the most, whenever you have to change the pace, the dynamic of a game, the player that he trusts the most is Diego Lainez. And for the biggest competition, regardless of the minutes that he sees or doesn't see with his club, he's leaving him out of the World Cup. I cannot buy the argument that Tata Martino is trying to sell that sadly Diego Lainez doesn't have enough minutes, because when he didn't have any minutes with Betis, he was still calling him up. Not only that, he was giving him valuable minutes for the Mexican national team. So at this point, and even Tata Martino has said this, there is no other player who has had a bigger impact coming off the bench in the last 3.5 years than Diego Lainez. So, in my book, this is the biggest mistake Gerardo Martino has made so far.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? If you go back to that graphic, it shows that he's a top 5 player in all the stats for the Mexican national team, except for minutes played under Tata Martino, where he has the fewest out of any player. So it goes to show you how productive he is in the limited amount of time. Now, look at this. Fewest minutes, 642, but everything else, he's top 5 on the team. That is insane to me. He says that he's not playing right now, that he can't justify a call-up because he's not playing. How do you justify Rogelio Funes Mori, who wasn't playing? How do you justify Raul Jimenez? Newsflash, Diego Lainez has more goals, more assists in the last month than Raul Jimenez, who most likely, if fit, will be the starting 9 for the Mexican national team. Diego Lainez versus the U.S. men's national team in the CONCACAF Nations League final. Almost retired Tim Ream. Tim Ream, who today is on that flight for the U.S. men's national team, captain of Fulham. Almost retired him, scored a goal in that final. Comes off the bench against Panama in an Azteca, draws a penalty kick to win the game. Costa Rica does the same thing. This is who he is off the bench. And Tata Martino, as Mau has said, has stated it over and over and over again. He's a different player coming off the bench. So in my eyes, he's the first player off the bench. He's player number 12. Why isn't he on the list?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Go ahead, Mal.
Yeah, I was going to say one last thing. This is obviously not confirmed, but it was said that Diego Lainez was competing against El Piojo Alvarado for that final spot, the 26th spot in the national team roster. In no world, in no parallel world, in no Marvel world, Piojo Alvarado is a better player than Diego Lainez. In no galaxy has El Piojo Alvarado had a bigger impact in the national team than Diego Lainez. And what concerns me the most, and we'll talk about this when we touch on Santiago Jimenez's topic, how can this affect a player in the future? He's already had to deal with the fact that he doesn't play much. Now, when we all thought he was a safe bet to be on the roster, how does this affect his motivation moving forward? Big concern, big disappointment for not having Diego Lainez in Qatar.
Bad for the team, bad for the player. I think bad for the future of Mexican football, right? This was a joven promesa. This is a guy who Mexican football was really high on, was really counting on. A World Cup could have relaunched his career, and this is definitely a player that needs that. So for me, it's a missed opportunity there. And to the point that you guys are making, what other player has this profile, right? You have other players who can come off the bench and give you speed. You have other players who can come off the bench, and we'll talk about them in a second, who are maybe final third connective players, can make an assist, can score a goal. But one-on-one specialists, I don't think that exists on this current Mexican roster. So to not have Lainez go, not only are you leaving a good player off, you don't have anything else like him. Now, real quick, do you think it's the end of the road for Lainez? Do you think this is it?
No, I don't think so. I think he has a great mentality. I think he can bounce back. I want the people that manage his career to understand that he has to find a place where he's a starter, where he's an important part of a club. If
Is that place in Europe or
soon,
Mexico?
Then At this point, it doesn't matter. At this point, it doesn't matter.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.